Who knows what PhotoFi is? Who does not know what PhotoFi is? Raise your hand. Just let me just see. It's okay. I just need to, some of you are not there. Here's what I want you to do, guys, right now. It's going to take 30 seconds. Go to your phone, and go to the App Store. And I want you to download PhotoFi, PHOTOFY. And it looks like this app right there. Can you see it? That orange one? It says PhotoFi. This one right there. I want you to just download it. Forget about using it for right now. Just download it. Okay. And then I want you to write this down because we don't have time to do it all in one shot. Then the next app I want you to download, and we'll train you and teach you how to use this. Trust me, they did it to me, and I thought these things were really complicated and sophisticated, and I got so caught up in the sophistication of what the app does as opposed to how to use it. All we really care about is how we use it, how they make it, what it does, the algorithms. Don't worry about that. It's kind of like a calculator. We don't really care how a calculator works. We just know what buttons to press to get our numbers. It's the same concept. So there's the next app I want you to download. And again, you could do this because next week I'm going to ask the same questions. It's called First App. And again, go to the App Store, and it kind of looks like this one. This one over here. Can you see it? It's hard to, I know it's hard to get a good visual, but it's called First App. And it's got a picture of a kind of a blue house. That's what it looks like. Okay, just write that down and we'll talk about them in a second. Do you guys know what Remax Hustle is? Anybody have heard of Remax Hustle? Just write it down. And has anybody ever heard of Megaphone? This is just for some real simple things. And if we are not taking an advantage of this, then we're missing some of the boat. This is not the secret sauce. There's no such thing as the secret sauce. There's no magic formula, but these are all tools, just all little tools to help us become a little bit more productive, a little bit more systematic. There's nothing fancy. There's nothing, like I said, earth-shattering about any of these tools, but these are the tools that are available to all of us that I know, including me, that we're just not taking advantage of it. So let me tell you some of my takeaways of this program. This first app is really kind of interesting. And what it does is it's your own personal app. No one else gets, you're gonna be asked when you do it, you're gonna be asked to import all of your phone contacts into this program. It'll do it automatically for you. It doesn't go to Remax. It doesn't go to a third party. No one's going to be selling. No one's going to have access to your personal information, but it's going to go to your to this app. If you have an Outlook program or another CRM program at home that's not in your phone, and you can import that information as well. And here's what it does in a nutshell. There's an algorithm. There's like 800 different points that it looks at, and it goes through your information. And basically you're going to get, once it's set up, you're going to get on the app every day of your email list, these little windows, I guess, and they have 1-star, 2-star, and 3-star. And what it's designed to do is if you get something that has 3 stars of your personal contact, it's designed to say, based on these algorithms that are put together, it is this person has a 90% chance of selling their house in the next 3 to 6 months. It just takes in all the things. Are they looking on, where are they looking online? It's almost like Big Brother is watching, right? We all know we're being watched. What sites are they going to? Are they looking at homes? Are they looking at, moving companies? I mean, there's like 800 points. It's pretty sophisticated. I didn't pay attention to the point. I didn't get too caught up in the sophistication of it behind the scenes. But what it does is, based on these algorithms, these people they've been in their house for 25 years. Their kids are in college, or the kids are grown and gone, that kind of stuff. It just gives you a better chance of who to contact. Maybe we have not contacted these people in a long time, but these people that that are on your mailing list and your contact list are more apt to sell their house in the next 3 to 6 months than somebody that gets 2 stars, as opposed to somebody that gets 1 star. And when these names come up on your app, you can click a button and it just sends them a text message. And there's pre-written scripts. You can program it. You can do it all by yourself. You can, when I say all by yourself, meaning you can just send them a whole text. Hey, Nicole, it's Sandy Karpen with Remax. I feel a little embarrassed. Haven't talked to you in a long time. Hope is all is well. Thinking about you. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever your message is and whatever your relationship to that person, you can certainly customize it. And then that app, when you send that message, it'll remind you in 2 days to call them again or to do something with them again. It just keeps coming up. And if somebody comes up on your program that you lost contact with, they're just out of interest to you, you can skip it. It doesn't delete it. It just skips it, and it'll come up at a later date, or you can just delete them and you'll never see them again. But imagine the power of calling somebody that based on these statistics, that have a better chance of selling their house. Is it still kind of a cold call? Maybe. Is it a warm call because you've already had some sort of relationship? You bet. Is it an awkward phone call to make sometimes if you haven't talked to them in a long time? Probably. Is it worth a 30-second phone call? Because one of 2 things will happen in those 30 seconds. They're going to tell you to bug off, take a hike. I don't really want to work with you anymore. You haven't called me in 10 years. And you stand. Or they're going to say, boy, it's so great to hear from you. I'm so glad you reached out. And maybe with a little bit of luck, it's funny that you called. My wife and I were just thinking about possibly, selling, after the first of the year. But in 30 seconds, you'll know if that phone call was worth it or not. 30 seconds. And I think it's worth making that phone call. Don, you shared with us something, or at least with me, not too long ago, that you've been calling your list of thousands and thousands of people. And Don, if I can speak for you for 30 seconds, Don is not calling the people that he's been most in contact with. Don is calling his list of the people that he has been in least contact with. And he's apologizing that he's done a poor job in keeping in contact with some people. And he's making those reconnections. And this app does it automatically for us. So I think it's worth, again, we'll talk more about it. Andrew will we'll learn these apps and we'll have programs on it. There's just some good things that are available to us, these tools that are available to us. Here's the deal, guys. You already know what to do. We all of us have sold houses. We already know what to do. The question is, are you executing what you know? Because it's not what you know. And this is not something that I learned at the conference, but these are just notes that I'm taking down, as I'm going through these classes. We already know what to do. The question is, are you doing it? And if you dig down deep inside and you're not, the question is why? And for those that say, I don't have the time, I say bullshit. I call you on the floor on that. Because nobody has more time in a day than anybody else. It's how you use the time. Yes, we get busy at times during the day, and we have days that are, knock us out and so on. But we all have the same amount of time. The question is, how are you using your time? And that doesn't mean it doesn't mean that you have to become, to make $1 million. If that's not your goal, then that's not your goal. And that's good. That's okay. Just define what your goal is. But nobody has the secret sauce. Guys, you've heard me say this from day one on Camp Advantage. You know more about real estate than you think you know, especially some of the newcomers. You know more than you think you know. You just don't know it yet. And for us veterans, we already know what we need to do. The question is, are we doing it? Are we executing what we already know? right? So one example that was brought up in this class was, you know, the very smart people, they have doctorate degrees and they have, you know, master's degrees and all that stuff. They have all the knowledge, but are they using that knowledge to do what they want to do? Who cares what kind of degree you have if you're not using it? And who cares if you don't have a degree? If you're not using what you have, then it doesn't make a difference what you have. I've got all this knowledge about real estate and I know all this, but if you're not using it, who cares? Think about that. To me, that really made an impact. And other than Don, I think my license here has been the longest, you know, tenure. And every day we just learn more and more and more. The question is, do you want to learn? And if you're going to learn it, are you going to use it? Because if you're not going to use it, then don't bother learning it. Remax came out. I've never, in all my years, especially as being in management and brokership and so on, as Dell would say, I was never one to drink the Kool-Aid. You know, I just didn't always come back rah 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 Remax, and that's just the truth. I don't disbelieve in the concept. I mean, but I was never. I always thought it was about the individual, and maybe even about the brokerage, not the name of Remax, but what Dell had to offer and what Jamie has to offer, and I like to think what I have to offer. That's what made the difference. It wasn't the name of Remax, and I still believe that. I really still believe that. But in the last couple of sessions that I went to in programs, I'm believing more and more in the people that run this company. I'm believing more and more. And I think what did it for me on this convention was Nick Bailey, Adam Cantos, if you don't know, is the president and the CEO of our company, Lineker, Dave Lineker, the founder. They had an interesting session. And here, in a nutshell, they screwed up and they apologized. And they're backtracking, they're reinventing. And what they did was, in a nutshell, is they got so excited about this Boosh program and about the technology and so on, that they overpromised and way underdelivered. And they came up and they just said it. They just said it. But I'm convinced with what they're doing now, and you'll see this is happening probably in October, it'll be rolled out. It's been re-ramped, reinvented. Max Center has been redone. Remax University is going to be something that we're all going to encourage us to use. We're going to rely on that. I'm going to rely on that a lot more. And they just kind of backtracked. They had this great concept, and they just, you know, their heads got bigger than the execution. But the technology is amazing. And they talk about this ecosystem with Boosh, and I'm probably not the greatest person to talk about it, in the sense that I'm not sure I understand it all. But I for one will give it a fair shot. And when it gets to be rolled out, they're going to roll it out to brokers as far as you know, what our participation is in that. But it's being reinvented. And there are some pilot programs out there that some other brokerages around the country that really, really like it a lot. And it's easy to use, and it's not going to have these glitches and so on. But it won't be rolled out until I think late September, middle of October. So I got re-energized. Do I drink the Kool-Aid? I don't know. I was never that guy. I've been to the Tony Robbins. I've been to all of those seminars, the Ferries, Buffinis. I'm not the guy in the audience that bangs his chest and does all these things. I'm not what Leonardo DiCaprio in The Wolf in the movie, and that's not me. But I do get out. When I do go to these programs, I get the meat and potatoes. I don't do the rah stuff. And there was a lot of meat and potatoes, a lot of it. There was quite a bit of vegetables and side dishes, but there was a lot of great content in these programs. So we'll introduce it to you as we go, and we'll bring it out as we go. Okay, but stay tuned. If you haven't done Max Center, go to Max Center. At minimum, at least get signed into it. At minimum, today, just download it and understand how to just sign in on it. Look through the tiles. See what they have to offer with Remax University. See what they have to offer. There's nothing that you could ever ask me or Greg or Don or whomever. There's nothing you could ever ask that won't be on Max Center. I got a problem with an issue or a marketing problem, whatever. I guarantee you there's other agents in this company across the country that have the same problems that I've posted and put up some marketing ideas and things. So I would encourage you to use that a little bit more often. All right, that's my 30-second that's my 30-second commercial. So Photofy, first app. We'll talk about Megaphone. We'll talk about Remax Hustle. These are all free programs. Yes, you can enhance it and pay a little bit more for other things, but you don't need to. And I'm not asking you, and I'm not encouraging you to dissolve your CRM programs, whatever you've got, use it. Just know there's another program out there available to you, and there's no cost to do that. Okay. You've heard me say this over the years. I'm probably as old-fashioned as a broker as you'll ever find. But for me, it works. Right, guys? You know, I laugh. I'm still using the old-time day timers. You know, I'm still buying my inserts every year, right? Still do all that stuff. But that's my system. And for me, my system works. And whatever your system is, I can promise you it will work. But you got to work the system. And even if your system is no system and you fly by night, if that's your system and it got you through life at this stage of the game, then do it. But even a no system is a system. But there are ways to increase and to make your systems a little bit more efficient. Listen, technology is not going to make us a lot of money. Technology in it by itself is not going to, you're not going to, like I said, you know, tap into the technology and the secret sauce, and all of a sudden your phone's going to become inundated with phone calls. You still got to get out there and do the work. There is nothing like face-to-face. There is nothing going to ever replace talking to people. And even with the millennials and the younger generation, if talking to them has to do with texting, then so be it. But it's still communicating person to person. It is not, technology is not replacing us. The most central part of any transaction is what? The most central figure or person is the agent. And I don't see that going away anytime soon. And the more sophisticated we get and the more complicated we get, the more we are needed. I have a listing, for example, and the guy, my guy is a young guy, and he keeps telling me every 3 days how many hits on Zillow we got and how many saves we got. And I keep telling him, even in this market, we're high priced. We've been on the market for 10 days. We had an offer and the offer, you know, backed out. He keeps telling you, but keep going, keep going. We had over 1 million looks and, you know, 50,000 saves. But if nobody's biting on it, what does that tell you? So don't think that they don't know what's going on. They know exactly what we're doing. And they know exactly what we're seeing is what they're seeing, and probably they're seeing things that we don't even see. I'm, for one, I don't go on Zillow to see how many people hit. I already know what the market is for me, and I already know in this particular house, but they know. But that's not what's going to sell the house. It's what to do with that information. How do you use that information? So he's got 1 million hits, big deal. So what? How is that helping you sell your house? Or what is that? Or what is it telling you that you got 1 million hits and you got one offer? What does that tell you? That's how you use the technology. It's not the technology itself, it's what you do with the information once you get it. Okay. All right. That's my rant and rave this morning about Remax and some technology and things coming down the pipeline. So just be aware it's out there. But nothing, in my opinion, will replace the agent, and nothing will replace you and your relationship with your client. That's the central key figure. Everything else is just a tool. And if you want to go back to days on old, when we used to do cost sheets, right? We used to do a cost sheet to a seller at the table, and we used to do it by hand. Right now we just press a button and it's already done. That button didn't make the listing and didn't convince the seller to sell to you. It just made it easier to provide information, but you still had to provide the information. That's what will never go away. Okay. All right. Let's go on. Any questions for me, you guys? I've been thinking about changing. I've never liked Camp Advantage. I inherited that name, and I've never liked Camp Advantage. And I'm thinking about changing the concept and calling it bagels with the broker. Any thoughts? You like it? Okay. So Don,
Are you going to have everybody pick up bagels before they start this?
I was going to give a prize of a dozen bagels to those that participate the most. Yes. So Don, I'm glad you're here and thank you. So I was going to tell you something interesting. One of the speakers we had, I'm sure you by now you already know it, although she wasn't in person, she was on video, was one of Don's favorite people who he's talked to me about for a long time. You know what I'm talking about?
I would tell you it's Ivy Zellman.
Ivy Zellman, you bet.
And I just talked to her I usually talk to her every Saturday or Sunday morning.
It was pretty fascinating. She's a market strategist, a consultant. I can't give her enough compliments and enough praises and enough accolades of what she does and how smart she is. But she's one of the world's leading. It's not really an economist, but she's just mostly in the real estate market of trends and where the market was, where are we going with it, what does it all mean, and so on. And I'll tell you that I agreed with pretty much everything she said. I mean, it's not rocket science. You look at the numbers, but guys, the market is it shifting a little bit? Maybe. And I'll just talk about the Phoenix market because the other markets right now aren't of interest to me, but just don't think that it's not just our market. Every market in every part of the country was experiencing everything we had in the last 6-9 months. There was no market that was immune to what we just experienced. And I think we're all agreeing that there's a little bit of a shifting in the market. And here's my takeaway. Is this the beginning of getting back to normal, or is it just a blip in the market right now? So I'm going to give you some of my thoughts. I've always believed over 30 years in this city selling real estate that in the summertime, local people slow down in doing local things. We're taking family vacations. We're going to San Diego. The kids are at camp. Real estate isn't, for the most part, local people aren't doing those local things in real estate. A lot of times we experience people from out of state coming in the summertime, but generally speaking, the market didn't stop. It just slowed. But the market got better every summer only because the numbers were better. We have more population and more housing. So there's more movement. But I'm willing to bet you the percentages of those people pretty much stayed the same. Well, guys, it's 110 degrees today and raining and stormy and monsooning, but summer is over. All schools by the end of next week will be back in session. Some started last week, some started 2 weeks ago. Most of them go back this week. Schools are back in session. Therefore, summer is over. That's how we define summer in this town. I define summer in this town. Summer is over. So the question is, we're seeing statistics now in August from June. We really haven't seen much in July yet, although I can tell you what I think they're going to be based on our numbers. And yes, there was a little bit of a shift, a little bit of a slowdown. We're seeing, at times, we're seeing price reductions. We're seeing houses stay on the market a little bit longer. I think it was Helene Cass, but don't quote me on this. Was a little disappointed a couple of weeks ago because she put a condo on the market in Scottsdale for $350, and she was just a little disappointed that she only got 2 offers. None were full price, and it took 7 days. Think about that powerful statement. And she was doing it tongue in cheek, of course. 2 offers, 7 days. They weren't full price. So is that a shift in the market? Is it a real trend? I think it's way too early to tell you this is the trend because inventory is still considered very, very low. Interest rates are still very, very low. If interest rates rise, it's not going to change. And if interest rates drop, it's not going to change. If interest rates rise, sellers aren't selling because they have no place to go and they're going to be paying more for something less or something more for something equal. And if interest rates drop, then the buyer demand will go up, theoretically. And new home builders can't keep up with the demand with where they're going. So the market, in my opinion, is not going to change drastically, but there's going to be a shift. I think there are basically four markets, if you will. We've just experienced something that we've never truly experienced, maybe back in 05, I guess I shouldn't say that. What I would define, there's no, Ivy Zellman wouldn't define it this way, there's no economist that would define it this way, but we came out of a super seller's market. I don't think anybody would argue with me. We were in a super seller's market. The question is now, in this downshift, are we downgrading to just a seller's market? That's what I think is going to happen. Still a strong seller's market, but it's not a super seller's market. And then once we get this new plateau, then we're going to downgrade to maybe a balanced market of some sort. But you can't go from a super seller's market to a balanced market. You got to go in stages. And I think by the end of August, certainly by the middle of September, we will know it because we're actively in the streets as practitioners. We're going to hear the demand, see the demand. Title companies will see the actual escrows, but statistics and statisticians will not report these numbers until 30 days after that month. So what we're seeing now will not be reported until the end of September. By the end of September, we already know where we're at. So I think there is a shift, and I don't think we're getting out of this seller's market anytime soon, but maybe we're not in this super crazy seller's market. So we have to be reacting to that. And you know what happens in our marketplace? Sellers are slow to react. Sellers are still thinking 6 months ago. 6 months ago. And you know what buyers are thinking? Oh, there's a shift in the market. There's a shift in the market. You know, now this is now becoming my market. And we have to be cognizant of that. We're playing this balance game. Every time there's a shift in the market, whatever market balance is between buyers and sellers, they're the first to react. In other words, if it hurts the sellers, they're the last to react. If it hurts buyers, they're the last to react. But if it benefits a buyer, they're the first to react. And we get caught in this quandary because we're telling sellers what happened 6 months ago, not necessarily happening right now. And until we prove it to them with days on market or price reductions. Here's one: when you guys do a CMA for a seller, when you're listing their house, I take their subdivision and I give them 10 years worth of statistics. And 10 years is simply 10 single pages. I just do a simple market analysis. What was happening in your neighborhood from January 1st to December 31st in 2010? And then when I do the CMA, I keep the same stats. I just do it from January 1st, 2011 to 2012. And the same stats from 12 to 13. And the only things I highlight, generally speaking, just to show them the trends, is the price sold per square foot and days on market. And obviously we can do a lot more with that. I just show them those two numbers. And you can take any subdivision and any price range, and the demographics or the statistics will be exactly the same. That's the trends. And that's how I think we have to convince sellers and buyers of what's happening right now. And even though it's, you know, you could do it quarterly, I don't think that's why I said I don't know if it's a trend yet, because there's not enough history of this shift to show a trend. But I think we're all experiencing it. Would anybody disagree? Would anybody have anything to say about that? I can tell you by when I review purchase contracts, they're still strong. They're still there. I am seeing on listings, I am seeing price reductions. We can see on statistics, we're seeing not as many cancellations. Now we can interpret that a lot of different ways, but I think in part that buyers just aren't putting 3 and 4 offers into a property just to get their self in the front door and then canceling the other 3. Right? We've all experienced that. So there's definitely a shift. And I am a little cautious to tell you this is a trend. I just like to see August and September activity because, like I said, summer is now over. And the question is, will that motivate, increase? Will it change the local people to do local things here in the market? Make no mistake, our population is still on the increase. way more people moving in than moving out. There'll always be the market for the move up, move down buyers. There'll always be the divorce and the hardship buyers. There will always be the relocation buyers. I got a job, I'm moving out, got a job, I'm moving in. There'll always be that market. And I think we're still with the inventory problem. I still think the inventory creates the issue of when you sell, where are you going? If you're selling to downsize or you're selling to upsize, right size, you're selling school districts, there's still very limited market. Guys, I always play with this number. I didn't do it this morning, but I always play with this number in, single family homes for sale, not pending, not UCB, single family, not condos or townhomes that are actively for sale in Maricopa County. And I know we talked about this last week, and I've always bragged, there's always between 2,000 to 2,400. Julie, look for me and tell me the number. There's always between 2,000 and 2,400. And in my years of doing this over the last year and a half, it's never dropped much below 2,000, never really gone above 2,400. Last week, through a series of events, not just one drastic change, it was just about 4,000 homes. And Julie's going to tell us in 30 seconds or less what that number is today.
You're on mute.
Okay, today is 4101. Yesterday was 4380.
Okay.
Sunday was 4425.
All right, that's good. That's good.
daily log.
Right, so my point is, in a matter of 2 months, it doubled. Now that doesn't mean there's an abundance of inventory. 4,000 homes in Maricopa, single family homes, not condos, right? 4,000 homes in Maricopa County. I'm told by people that know more than me that there's probably 1 million to maybe 1.1 million single family homes in Maricopa County. Of that, 4,000 are for sale. And then you say, okay, of those 4,000, I want Scottsdale. I want a single level. I want 3 bedrooms. I want a pool, 3-car garage, right? When you start getting a little bit more detailed in your search, less and less come up. So the inventory is still very, very low. So again, we're not having a drastic market change, but nonetheless, there is a market shift, and all of a sudden there's a doubling of homes. So I think you'll find that pretty much across the board in any market, luxury market, first-time home buyer market, millennial market, makes no difference. Same thing in our Peoria office. Flagstaff is experiencing the same thing. So it's in any kind of market. And again, at this conference I went to, you talk to people all over the country, it's all the same thing. So we just have to be one step smarter than our buyers and sellers. And as smart as they think they are not as smart as we are. All right, who wants to be first to tell me what's going on out there? What you're experiencing, what kind of issues? Gregor?
We talked about this earlier. I just wanted to remind you about waiving the appraisal and then still having the lender have the appraisal mandatory.
So I got a phone call last week from an agent, and in their contract, they waived the appraisal. We may have talked about this. The appraisal came in $40,000 less than the sales price. The loan was denied because the buyer didn't have the down payment. He didn't have the extra cash to come in with down payment. And they wanted to know, could they cancel the contract and would the earnest money be returned? Canceling a contract and earnest money are 2 completely separate issues. So the answer for the first question was, can they cancel the contract? Yes. Then the second question is, are they entitled to a return of their earnest money? And based on just that figure, those stats, in my opinion, the answer is no. So let's talk about it and tell you why. When you're waiving the appraisal, It doesn't make a difference what that number is. I buy a house and you get an offer and it's a $100,000 house and the buyer's putting down $10,000 and he's borrowing $90,000. Here's what he's telling the seller. I've got the $10,000. I can go into my purse. I can go into my right-hand pocket. I got the 10,000, and that should be verified by the lender. And if you use somebody like, CNN and Tiffany, they'll always put on the pre-qual that they've verified closing funds. Tiffany, am I correct when I say that?
Yes.
Okay, so what they're saying is I got the 10,000. What I ain't got is the 90,000. So this deal is contingent upon me doing the 90,000, right? And in the real basics of it all, when you get a pre-qual letter, it shows that one of two things: there's a strong pre-qual letter and there's a very weak pre-qual letter, because a pre-qual letter could simply say, Tiffany says, Sandy, how much money you make? I make $100,000 a year. Sandy, how much debt you have? I have no debt. Sandy, how's your credit? Credit's fabulous. Great. Based on what you said, you can get this $90,000. Now she verifies my words, if you will. And she said, Sandy, you told me you make 100,000 and I believe you, but you didn't tell me this is under the table money. It's not reported. I can't count that. And Sandy, you told me you have great credit. And you know what? Your personal credit in the world that you live in, fabulous. You forgot that you tell me that your two boys, you signed for their cars when they bought it, and you signed for their houses. They haven't paid their car payments. Your credit's shot. And Sandy, you know what you didn't tell me? You may not have any debt, long-term debt, but you got a lot of monthly debt. And your $100,000 that you make, I'm not so impressed anymore because you got $200,000 worth of debt. So that was a real weak pre-qual. But when the pre-qual comes back and says that Tiffany verified the W-2, or she saw their tax returns, or she verified money for down payment, that's a little bit of a stronger pre-qual. I think we'd all agree on that. So anyway,
I feel like you've been in the mortgage business before. You just described my life.
and listen, and pre-qualifying, pre-approved. I'm going to get my Sandyisms. We all get these letters. You've been pre-approved for a credit card of the balance of this. You've been pre-approved for mortgage. It's baloney. Is anybody out there pre-pregnant? Either you're pregnant or you're not pregnant. You're not pre-pregnant, right? I'm trying to get pregnant. I'm working on getting pregnant, right? I'm working on getting a mortgage. There's no such thing as, it's just a joke. It's just
Is that kind of like pre-diabetic?
Yeah, exactly. Well, for that matter, we're all pre-death, right? We're just working our way towards that day. All it means is conditioned upon. You're pre-approved, conditioned upon. All right, anyway, let me get off that. So
Real quick, Sandy, can I just say the best, I get calls all the time from listing agents to just review the pre-qual form to get more information. And of course I have, confidentiality, things I can't say. However, the ways that the agents word questions and things, we can get into conversations. Of course, let's say if the appraisal's waived, the conversation is, hey, have you verified funds?
Sure.
If it does come in low, do they have the money to make up the difference so that the loan still goes through?
Correct. So let me go back to the example. So now you waived, I got 10,000, it's been verified, I'm borrowing 90. My pre-qual letter says it's pretty strong, but it's still contingent upon that, right? It might be, there was a judgment I didn't pay off 10 years ago. Maybe I lose my job before close of escrow. Things happen in our transactions, but basically I'm saying to the seller, I got the 10, it's been verified. I ain't got the 90 and I'm working on it. That's really what the offer says. But I waive the appraisal, and the appraisal that doesn't come in at 100,000, it comes in at 90,000. And if I'm getting a 90% loan to value on 100,000, that's a $90,000 loan to value. But if the appraisal comes in at 90 and I'm getting a 90% loan to value, now I'm only getting $81,000 as a loan, which means where's the additional 9,000 coming from? Well, when you're waiving the appraisal, you're also basically stating that I got that too.
Yep.
And if you ain't got it, you ain't getting your money back on your earnest money, because you already said I've got it and you don't. And that's why, as listing agents, Tiffany gets those phone calls all the time, and they're not just good phone calls. I think as listing agents, we're obligated to make that phone call. In the case of a shortfall of the appraisal and the appraisal has been waived, does the buyer have the ability to make up the cash? That's an obligatory question. That's just not something wow, it's a good idea. We should be doing that. And that just, talks about the strength of our offers that we're taking. So in my opinion, in that offer, it was $40,000 less. What was the purpose of waiving the appraisal? Watch this one. Well, I'll get the lender to use a different reason why they didn't qualify. Tiffany, would you do that? If they didn't have the additional cash, but they actually qualified for loan, right? They qualified, they just didn't have the down payment money. You're not going to give them a different reason.
No way.
Right.
Because I already told everybody, the agent and everybody, that this deal was solid and checked all the boxes.
Right.
So
Right.
absolutely not.
In the case that something drastic happens, they did something stupid. They bought a car, they extended their credit more than they should have. They lost their job. Things do happen. We get that. But
Well, I have a twist on that question, because the lender's requiring the appraisal, sent it out. There's no appraiser actually picking it up. So where do they go from there? So
Why wouldn't
they
an
send it out to the pool. There's nobody in the pool that's actually grabbing this particular property to go and appraise. So what happens then?
I've never had
Yeah.
a situation where you cannot find somebody to appraise the property. Was it?
It's B of A. The first problem is the lender, because it's a big box bank there,
Right.
But can that lender reach out to an appraiser directly and have them go do it? Or can the buyer actually hire an appraiser to go do this?
Well, you have to have it go through the appraisal management company regardless. So if you
Right.
found your own personal appraiser, they would have to send their resume and everything in through the appraisal management company and get approved to do that. But typically, and like you said, B of A or any of the big banks is the problem, because they have the massive national, appraisal management company.
Mhm.
But typically there's 3 or 4 management companies that if one won't take it, then I've never, ever not been able to find. And is it super unique property?
No, it's just a normal property, but for some reason they're having an issue having an appraiser pick it up. So they want to try to extend everything. I'm like, well, you already waived the appraisal. It's not, that's not the issue. You still have to pay what you said you were going to pay. It's just between you and your lender now.
Right. So they need to find a new lender. Have them call me.
All right. Can you get it done in 2
That's
weeks?
interesting. I've
I
never heard that one
can.
before. I've never heard that one before.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
and here's the thing, it's up in Flag. So that's right in your wheelhouse.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so when we waive the appraisal, it means something. We're just not waiving it, just, it means something, and there's actions and reactions to everything that we do. And if we're the buyer agent, people need to understand that we need to fit that to our buyers, as well as sellers agents. I haven't seen yet any backlash of, assuming we're out of this super crazy seller's market. I haven't really seen any backlash yet of buyers being very risk tolerance, as I used to call it, where they waive the appraisal, they waive the home inspection, or they bought the house as is. I haven't seen much backlash yet. Market conditions advisory, you guys know, I used to think that was the stupidest document ever. Now, of course, I think it's the smartest document ever. But I really haven't seen any backlash yet. I don't know if there will be, of buyers buying a house sight on scene, minimal research time, paying more than maybe the market would allow, paying more than appraised value. That'll happen in time. That'll happen in time. But so far, maybe it's too soon to see if there's any backlash on that. So, anybody have any thoughts about that one?
Sure. I always have a lot of thoughts.
I'm sure you do. Yes, good.
Good energy today, Sandy. It's nice to see you fired up. Haven't seen you this fired up since we had a ethics hearing, which we lost. Anyways, couple thoughts. It's one thing to waive, my guy said, okay, I can get the money, no problem. And so he waived the financing contingency, but it was contingent upon an appraisal. So sometimes the reverse is actually really what you're thinking about. The other thing, some thoughts, Ivy Zellman just sent me, well, a paper edition is out for publishing right now, and she's got an interesting book. I'd suggest you read it. It's called Gimme Shelter, which is just perfect for her. And Jim Kramer did the foreword. The other thing I noticed was, you know, the media creates whatever they create. So you're seeing inventory going up and housing prices stabilizing and stuff like that. So, you know, the media can create the market. I mean, we really can't create the market. And there's an interesting thing that I do have my mastermind spent an hour with Ivy one-on-one. I do have that recorded that I could share with you guys if anybody's interested. The other interesting thing is that Rocket Mortgage is now a real estate company. And I found that kind of fascinating. So one of the things that occurred to me was it's all well and good to have all these tech stuff and everything like that, right? But I think we got to really understand what we do and why we do it and how we go about it and how can we get better. And so be prepared. Speaking of prepared, Thursday and Friday, there's the contract class at Scottsdale Area Association of Realtors. And it's 8 hours and you go over it line by line. So the contract's changed since the last time I did this. Plus you get a boatload of hours and you get a GRI, whatever it's called.
Credit.
Yeah. So I would encourage you to think about that a little bit. Anybody who wants to know the contract better. I would also say that, you know, houses are on the market a little bit longer. If you look at the data, I think it's gone from 50 to 80 or something in a certain category that I was looking at the other day. But another handy tool is the Crawford Report. I don't know if anybody subscribes to it. I know we do. And Butch Lieber is also doing 2 classes coming up here in the next 30 days. And Butch is a really great instructor on how to use to your benefit when you're talking to buyers and sellers, the Crawford Report. I did it last month. My team did it last month, and my team is doing it twice. I'm away, unfortunately. So those are things that are really good. I would give you a thing that was had an interesting thing happen. Okay. So how many people have gone to a listing appointment? They're interviewing a boatload of agents. Anybody have that happen? Brian Redfern, it always happens to you. You got that glare, buddy. I love your hairstyle. But anyway, so we go to list this property and, you know, the guy comes through and I call him up right away and talk to him. And then one of my assistants calls him, talks to him, and we have the basics, Mike Ferry basic interview script. So you just ask them the questions, go down the line, right? How much do you want for your house, blah, 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 and all that stuff. I want $1.4 million. Great. My assistant calls, just reconfirms the information. Then my partner calls and says, hi, you know, we're looking forward to seeing you next whatever day. So we do the research. We drop off the pre-listing package, okay, at the door. The people had just driven in from Colorado. And so we dropped the listing package to them, handed it to them, but also because they've been driving and they just arrived that night, David assumed that they had nothing in the refrigerator. So stopped off at AJ's, got a little package of stuff. Plus the fellow mentioned they were going to Italy. So got a bottle of Italian wine, gave it to the guy. So we show up to the appointment the next day. We got all the information, all the questions we asked the guy. We walk in. He wants $1.4 million for the house. It's beautiful. This house is just gorgeous. It's out in Trilogy at Rio Verde, and there's no houses for sale. So he says, well, you guys, before you get started, I just want to tell you one thing. I said, what's that? This guy's 70, mid 70s. He said, we were have 6 agents to interview. And now we have 1. I said, well, what do you mean? Well, we called the other 5 agents back and told them that we already selected an agent. That's you. So I would say to you that in a competitive market, be prepared. If you're working with a buyer, be prepared. If you're working with a buyer, make sure you got a script that you're going to follow, get all the information, make sure it's pertinent. Just be prepared. And that's low tech.
I was just gonna say, there's no high-tech involvement in that. What was
No.
it?
There's Zippo data. So we talked to the guy, and I'll leave you with a Dellism, okay? Dell and I used to talk scripts. We loved it. And, you know, I miss him dearly because, you know, no one talks scripts with me except my partners every morning at 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I do that every day, 5 days a week. Greg hears me, and it's really a lot of fun. The guy was blistering my butt today with rebuttals and objection handlers, and, you know.
Best
it's really-
call ever.
Huh?
Best call ever.
Oh, you like that one, eh?
I was laughing about it.
Oh, you were? He was really giving it to me, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I was giving it to him though. But anyway, the interesting thing, here's something you can use, okay? So he said he wanted $1.4 million. And I said, well, you really have 4 options here, you know? He said, well, 4 options? I said, yes. I said, you can price your home in this market at what we think is market, but the market's escalating. Well, yeah, it is. Okay. So we can price it at market or say 1% below it. So, it, you know, we're recommending a price of $1.3 million. So you're going to get a boatload of showings. You're going to get multiple offers. Those multiple offers are going to drive your price above $1.3 million into a price point that you're going to be very happy with. Second alternative is if you price it a little bit above market, you're going to get quite a few showings, and you're probably going to get one offer that you have to negotiate with. Your third option is you can price it 5 to 7% above market, and you're going to get some showings, no offers. Your fourth alternative is at $1.4 million, you're now way above market, and you're going to get no showings and no offers. So really what we have to decide this morning is where you want to spend your time. You want to spend your time with multiple offers where you can drive terms, conditions, and price, or one offer where you have to maybe soften your price, your terms and conditions. Some showings, no offers, or no showings. He said, no, I'd like to have multiple offers. I said, well, the price is $1.3 million. He said, fine. The other interesting thing, anybody get blowback on commissions these days?
Everybody.
Oh, good, Brian. So we give him the package. He's got it. He's reviewed all the documents. We're going to a listing appointment tomorrow late in the day, and I'm dropping off another package. And I really dialed into this dropping off a package thing. So when we were there signing the listing agreement, we'd written in the commission that we charge, and they're all flexible and negotiable, obviously. Not one peep about commission. I want a commission of this, period. Nothing. And why? Because I think we demonstrated to that consumer that we were more professional. And the other thing he said to us is, you are the only agent who called me back. Once, twice, and 3 times. Everybody else emailed me. And their comps were all stupid. He said they were irrelevant. So the only thing I can tell you all is, you know, the market's going to get more competitive. You're going to have Rocket Mortgage being an agency. You're going to have Zillow being an agency. You're going to have, they're going to charge whatever they're going to charge. But at the end of the day, back to Sandy's comment, it's a person-to-person business. So if it's a person-to-person business, you got to up your game, demonstrate your professionalism and why they should select you and why you're worth what you charge. So that's it. That's all I got to say today.
Hey, Don, thank you, Don. That was great. And we talked about that a little bit in the last previous weeks. You know, I'm seeing a listing agreements. I'm seeing, you know, MLS listings. You know, we've lowered the standard as an industry. We've lowered the standard. We are beating ourselves up. We are just beating ourselves up. There was a time that I know we can't use the word standard and all that stuff, but you know, there was a 7% commission and it was a 3.5% co-broke. And then 6% became the norm. It never went back to 7 as a norm, and it's now going to 5 and 2.5 and 2.5, and it's not going to come back. We are beating ourselves up. We are beating ourselves up, guys. In the absence of value, you discount. Don, I brag about you all the time. Don's listings, which I review every day, comes back nothing less than a 1-year listing, 6% commission. Every one of them. Every one of them. Because he believes in what he does, he believes in his product, and he's confident that he'll deliver.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing, you guys. You got to be prepared to walk away. Because you can either get commission X or get commission X minus 50%. So I have to work twice as hard. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to, now I'm getting too kind of old for that, you know?
Did you guys ever,
Huh?
I'm sorry, did you guys ever go on an interview or have a conversation with somebody that you didn't really care? You didn't really care if they liked you or not. You didn't really care if you got the job. You didn't really care if they let you into the place you were going. You just didn't care. So you just spoke your mind. You just said what you said. You weren't trying to put on an air. And that's what I think Don's saying. You know, you can't want it more than them. You can't want it more. You may want it more than them. You may need it more than them. You can't let them know that you need it more than them. How about this one? We've talked about this. I haven't talked about this in a long time. We go over a listing agreement, and this is what we say. So line 1, sir, is your name, and it's my name and my company, and this is your address, and this is called the APM, the assessor's parcel number, and the blah blah blah, and we just keep going, and then we get to the commission, and then we say, and our fees at 6%, and we stop. We're waiting for them to say something. When we say this is your address is 1234 Main Street and this is your zip code, we don't sit there and say this is your address 1234 Main Street. We don't wait for them to respond. But when we come to the commission, we stop and respond. Try this one on your next listing. Have the paperwork already printed up and in the commission put down 6% and 3% co-broke. And now when you do your presentation, you say, so this is your address, this is my company, we represent you, blah, blah, blah. Our fee is 6%. We don't collect our money until the money's not paid until closing. This is the days on market or whatever. This gives us permission to lockbox on, whatever is next in your repertoire. Don't stop. It's almost like you're waiting for them to object. Have it pre-stamped.
Have it pre-sent, Sandy.
Right?
Pre-send it.
Or
Send it so
pre-sent.
they
Yeah.
can look at all the documents. Then you just say, hey, listen, I'm going to send over a package of information for you. It's everything you need to get your home sold. And we can talk about any questions you might have when I arrive. So instead of being there 2 hours, the one we listed, I mean, we've already had inquiries on it. It's not even on the market yet. But you've just saved yourself a boatload of time. I mean, I'm sure Tiffany doesn't go and, she has people already doing stuff before she does an interview. She's not going to do that. It's time is money. And I can honestly say to you, hey, listen, I'm always willing to help you. And on the commission, okay, let's just talk about that one for a second. Well, you cut your commission. No, any other questions?
Yeah. What's your next
The other
question?
agent said they would. Oh, I'll tell you what, Sandy, you know what really concerns me about that? What? Well, you must have really negotiated hard with them and get that commission down, right? Well, no, they just said that they would do it for this. I said, wow. If they can't articulate the value that they bring to the process that we're about to embark on together, How strong can they be at the negotiating table, negotiating the best price, terms, and conditions for you in this biggest transaction you're about to embark on? I have that strength. I have that courage. I'm the right agent, and I know I can get the job done. So just sign the contract.
Damn it. So listen, guy, and that just takes practice and believing in yourself. I won't do it today. I told you the story about the $49 chicken years ago and before I got into real estate. And it just took practice to sell a $49 chicken, you know, but
I would have bought it.
yeah, anyway, so just believe in what your product is, believe in what your product and believe in what you are. All right. Anybody got anything they want to add? Say thank you, Don, very much.
I
Brett,
do.
I'll call you later, by the way, about our friend, okay?
Oh, Nick, is Nick Bailey still mad at me?
Nick Bailey loves you. Listen to this. Nick Bailey had a really bad accident. So in Austin, everybody downtown, they ride these scooters, you know, these,
Oh,
you see
yeah.
them in South Scottsdale and all that stuff. And then you just park it and wherever you want to park it and so on. And he fell. He had kind of an accident. I'm not sure exactly how it happened. He fell and he had some a huge black eye, broke a rib. He had some brain leakage. Gonna be fine, but he was banged up pretty good. So
Yeah, talk to me about Ivy. She's fascinating. And another thing I'll tell you, what's really, so how do you meet people like that, you know? How do you meet Harvey McKay, swim with the sharks and stuff? Well, if you go to where they're speaking and you show up a half an hour early, nobody's there except them. It's awesome. You just tell them, hey, I'm president of your local fan club. I just thought I'd come and meet you. And then they laugh at you. I
Don,
didn't
who's
know
the
we had a fan
president?
club.
Who's the president of the local Don Matheson fan club?
Sandy Karpen.
All right, guys. Anyway, who else has got questions? Anybody want to bring up something, talk about something?
I want to follow up on that class that Don was talking about. I sent out the link on the 30th. Unfortunately, that class is completely full, but the next class is in November, and I just put that on there, the November 19th and 20th, if you're interested.
Guys, I'll tell you something else. And I've said this for years and years. You know, I'm not denouncing the Buffinis and the Ferries and all over the world. They all have a great purpose and they motivate. Professional athletes all have coaches, right? Professional athletes have coaches. They get paid millions and millions of dollars. They're the best at what they do and they still have coaches, right? But don't discount what we offer you at this brokerage. Don't discount the leadership, the knowledge, the experience that we have. There's not one person in this company that you could go to that wouldn't. Has anybody ever gone to anybody in this company, whether it's Don or it's a newcomer, and asked them a question about something and was turned down? It'll never happen. So you know, we have it all internally here. Totally convinced of that. You know, do you know what I think? And I know this is putting myself on a little bit of a pedestal. I think the only thing that a Buffini or a Tom Ferry or Mike Ferry have that I don't have, they have showmanship. This is what they do for a living. They put on a show with the flip charts and the jokes and they got the repertoire. But when it comes down to the meat and potatoes, they're no more knowledgeable than anybody else. They just have a way of motivating. And here's how I'll prove it. Take any impersonator performer, Dolly Parton, Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson. Take any impersonator who's on Broadway or did a movie or won, you know, Talent with the Stars, whatever. They are fabulously talented individuals, but they weren't the Michael Jacksons of the world, and they didn't make it the way Elvis Presley, and they didn't make it the way everybody else did, right? Because they had some sort of charisma. They had something, they had the talent. They just didn't have maybe the right agent, or they weren't in the right place at the right time, but they had the talent. So what made them not make it as big as the original star that they were impersonating? But what they did do is they found a superstar and they impersonated that superstar to make their pathway. So
remember, life is a performance, okay? When you're with a buyer, you're performing.
bet.
When you're with a seller, you're performing. And all great performers practice and giddy. So that's the only thing I would
All
tell
right,
you.
I'm gonna leave you with one last thing and then we'll call it a day. So there's an old fashioned book, and if you read it today, it's as old fashioned as they come, because they still talk about the newspaper and for sale by owners, and they talk about, it's just an old fashioned book, but it is relevant today. It is as relevant today, hold on, as it is anytime. And it's called How to Master the Art of Selling and Listing Real Estate by Tom Hopkins. Tom Hopkins, before there was any kind of training, before there was any, has anybody not ever heard of Tom Hopkins? Before the Ferries and the Buffinis and anybody else, there was him.
He was my coach in the beginning.
And he's right here in Scottsdale. I'm sure he's retired right now. He'll tell you the story about how he used to knock on doors with his marching band uniform. But his concepts, forget the execution because they're outdated. Concepts have not changed in 40 years. They just have
Andy,
not changed.
Mike Ferry talks about Tom Hopkins a lot when he's doing his shtick. You know?
Yeah. So read the book. It's not like you have to read chapter 1 to get to chapter 2. You can pick and choose, but hopefully it'll trigger some sort of motivation. All right, guys.
Thanks, Andy.
Next week, thank you very much. Thanks, Don, for your participation. Next week, same time, same station. I'll bring the bagels and you bring the coffee. And hopefully sometime, I have this dilemma. Do we go back in person? Forget for a moment the uprising. You know, we do it in person. I think sometimes it becomes more effective, but we do it on Zoom. We get more of an attendance. So I'm asking you if each of you can call one of your fellow agents and bring them to this class next week.
Hey, Sandy, can I say something real quick about mortgage?
Yeah, please.
Just real fast. You know, there's a myth that the jumbo market is more difficult and higher interest rates, but now with prices going up, the jumbo financing is super hot, all kinds of options. It's down to 10% down minimum, and a 30-year fixed, I priced it yesterday, is 2.75 with no points, up to, I think it was up to 2 million in loan amount. So just don't forget that on the higher price stuff. It's pretty streamlined, like the conforming.
Right. Good. All right, everybody, have a great week. We're here if you need anything. Brian, I'll call you a little bit later today. And Brett, I'll call you a little bit later today about our friend as well. Okay.
All right, bye.
All right.